Salutations, future Twig. Past Twig here once again. We're back with another card call out for everybody. Today we're looking at Fangren Marauder. He's a 6-mana 5/5 beast creature, and he has the ability whenever an artifact is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may gain 5 life. And this is very amazing because it doesn't actually specify it has to be your graveyard or the battlefield on your side of the field. So this counts for artifacts on your opponent's sides of the fields. And as you'll see, there's a lot of synergies that can arise from having a global effect that only benefits you like this. First off, though, let's talk about the price. He's only 37 cents because he's now on the list and has been reprinted once or twice. And moving on, he's also in about 17,000 decks, so fairly well represented. But I think given how powerful this ability is in the modern Magic the Gathering Commander's table, he should probably be played in a lot more. And speaking of commanders that benefit from him, let's get right into the synergies here. Obviously, when you're talking about a life gain effect, there's obviously life gain commanders, especially in green. So for example, one of the newer ones is Aerith Last Ancient here. This effect is especially powerful because as long as you have 2 artifacts that get sacrificed, or have 1 artifact that gets sacrificed, and have 2 life gain from a different source, her last ability triggers and allows you to actually just get stuff from the graveyard directly into the battlefield. And if you play your cards right, you can maybe even have some sort of artifact creature recursion synergy going on here, potentially, if you want to go that route. Moving on, and one of the bigger cards is Vraska the Silencer here. She has the abilities of Death Touch, and that whenever a non-token creature an opponent controls dies, you may pay 1 colorless mana. If you do, return that card to the battlefield tapped under your control. It is a treasure artifact. With sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color, and loses all of the card types. Now this is very interesting in particular because obviously with Fangren Marauder, treasures being so prolific in the format is actually a massive benefit to you because it specifies that whenever an artifact is sacrificed, treasures are artifacts, they're often sacrificed. This gives you 5 life per tick. It's insane. And as you can imagine, in a deck like Vraska, where your commander is a cheap commander that can get out early, and she turns all of your opponent's creatures into treasures for you, you can basically start ramping yourself, and even when you start sacrificing your opponent's creatures that are brought over to your side of the field, you're basically sacrificing artifacts. You can gain a ton of life that way. Obviously, a 6-mana creature like Fangren Marauder is a little bit expensive to get out there, but because Vraska turns your opponent's creatures into mana ramp, temporary mana ramp, it's much easier to get out. Not to mention that when you're in Golgari, there's tons of ways to get stuff into the graveyard and then reanimate it from there. And last but not least is a little bit of an odd choice, perhaps, with Glunok the Bestower, because I don't think people would traditionally think of him in this role, but I think Fangren Marauder in this kind of deck could be insanely powerful. First off, green-white Saweznia obviously very much has the life gain colors locked in. There's a ton of stuff like Feldwar Sovereign and other cards in this format that can allow you to instantly win the game out of nowhere. Additionally, Glunok is a commander that is often not directly targeted, particularly because of his ability being kind of group-huggy in nature, where he's a flyer that at the beginning of your end-step, you choose a player, they put 2+1/+1 counters on a creature they control, choose a second player, they draw a card, third player creates 2 treasure tokens. Well, the nice thing about this is, again, you have a cheap commander that is actively putting treasures onto the battlefield, either for your benefit or for the benefit of your opponents. And because Fangren Marauder does not care who's sacrificing artifacts, this is a great way to get down Fangren Marauder and gain a ton of life for yourself. And then, of course, with Glunok the Bestower, there's tons of ways where you could use that life gain to kill your opponents, or use some other format using the life to potentially win the game for yourself. And that is actually all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Card Callouts, and have a wonderful day all. Take care.